Yo guys, Punkrat another video. So phase 2, I guess, is officially over. With the release of BGs, the world has become significantly more safe. And considering that notion, I've been thinking a lot lately that people are able to level again. People are able to go out there and farm and do their own thing. And due to that thought, I was inspired to make a video talking about Mage AoE grinding spots. Now in the past, a lot of my mage friends didn't actually level up doing AoE farms unless it was specifically in a dungeon, just because there was so many people out there trying to do the exact same thing. Everything was contested, and then once world PvP came out, they were pretty much unable to do anything without being killed a million times. But now that the world is more open, a lot of these spots have become readily available for you to go out there and farm. But that was just the notion that made me inspired to make this video. In fact, a lot of the farm spots that I'm going to be mentioning today are in dungeons and you could have been doing anyways. But today we're going to be talking about some of the best AoE farming spots for mages. Let's get into it. Alright, so this first spot is actually the one that kind of inspired the whole video, and it's something that you're definitely familiar with because it was kind of part of a historic moment that happened during the first week of Classic WoW's release. We're talking about that spot that Joker D hit level 60 in, Hearthglen. I feel like the focus when it comes to gold making has been so heavily on Maradon, Dire Maul stuff, and other little cheesy things that people have figured out like ZF farming and whatnot. But classic spots like farming out in Hearthglen should definitely not be forgotten. This is one of the most old school farming locations in the entire game, at least for mages, and sometimes even not for mages. There used to be all kinds of people out here, just maybe even 2 people together, killing these NPCs as fast as possible and just clearing out the whole area. The best part about this place is that the mob density is pretty insane, and it's also pretty expansive, so you can go from pack to pack to pack to pack roaming around and you'll almost never run out of mobs. By the time you're done clearing the last pack that you have within your route, the first one will most likely respawn by that point, meaning you could just go in a sort of infinite loop over and over again, killing mob after mob after mob after mob, especially if you're actually clearing through the mine shaft itself and going all the way through, where again the mob density is really crazy. And that's another great part about it, is that the mobs are humanoids, meaning they drop cloth and all kinds of extra little goodies that add to the gold gain significantly. I've actually seen an epic drop here myself personally, and I'm sure there's been tons of epics that have been picked up doing AoE farming here. So now that the world is a little bit more clear, you can definitely get out to Hearthglen farming and start doing it up.
So this next spot, some of you guys may be familiar with it just because you have to farm this for Hydraxian Waterlord rep, which is the reputation that you need in order to get the Aqua Quintessence, which allows you to douse the rune in Molten Core. But this spot here in the northwest of Silithus is one of the most lucrative AoE mage grinding spots in the game. You have a couple different types of elementals here. There's a couple reasons why this is a great spot. The first is they're elementals and they have a chance of dropping essences, elemental earth, things like that. And on top of dropping those essences, there's just a ton of them. In terms of mob density, it's a pretty great spot. In fact, it's kind of chaotic. You have access to rock elementals and wind elementals. This gives you a little bit of a diversification in terms of the essences that you're getting. And one thing to keep in mind is that living essence will get a lot more expensive come AQ40, so this farm will actually get better with time. But in general, it's just a great farm. The mob density is there, great value in the drops, and on top of that, if you need rep for your douse and MC, you get that as well.
Now this next spot is probably something you didn't know about at all, and that's because there's no real reason to head out there until the Burning Crusade, surprisingly enough. The Burning Crusade, you might have made the connection. We're talking about the mobs, the ghostly or unliving residents outside of Karazhan. Now here's one of the best parts about this spot is exactly what I just said. Pretty much no one ever goes there. The chance that you get ganked out here is almost zero. The chance that there's another mage farming is again extremely low. There might be maybe 1 or 2 quests within this zone, but I've never seen one personally, and I'm only saying that because I might be wrong if I say there's pretty much no quests at all there. The only reason anyone ever heads there is just to walk from Duskwood across the gorge into the Swamp of Sorrows. But interestingly enough, there's some level 59 and 60 mobs scattered across the Deathly Ruins outside of Karazhan's structure. Now this farm is probably not the greatest considering the actual mob density itself is somewhat limited. I mean, there's a lot of them, but it's maybe not comparable to Hearthglen and how there's just a ridiculous amount of mobs out there. But it's really good, and I'd say the biggest strength about this place is that most people just don't go there, so you'll have it to yourself most likely. Now this one I want to cover really quick, and it's actually the last one that's out in the open world that I'm going to cover. And the reason why I want to just swing by this one with haste is just because a lot of you guys know exactly what it is, and a lot of people leveled out here back in the early days of classic WoW when we were all trying to blast up to 60. This is the South Sea Pirate Encampment on the east coast of Tanaris. This place was absolutely deadly while leveling up and while servers were really packed. And Tanaris in general was just a no-go zone once world PvP was thriving. But considering that a lot of people are level 60 right now, and of course the world PvP has significantly dimmed down, this spot is, again, open for business. The beauty about this place and the main reason why I wanted to mention it is you can do some of the biggest pulls imaginable. Near the docks and near the ship that's being reconstructed, the mob density is pretty insane. You can do a route that will allow you to kind of infinitely go around, and hopefully the first pack that you killed will respawn by the time you're done the last one. It's a really, really good farm. It's probably one of the greatest places to level here and doing ZF farming within the mid-level 40 range, and I just had to put it on this list, and you could probably even farm this place for gold at level 60. Now let's talk about the AoE farms that you could do within specific dungeons. Some of these are again widely known, so those specific farms I'm probably not going to spend too much time on them, but I will mention them just because I can't omit certain ones off this list. But there's actually a couple here that I'm going to mention that you've probably never seen before and that are pretty insane. In fact, there's a new one that someone just figured out a couple days ago, and that was also heavy inspiration for why I wanted to make this video. The first one, we're going to get it out of the way really, really fast. We're talking about ZF gold farming. Obviously, you know this. You make your way to the graveyard, you click all of the little graves, you jump up to the top of the ledge, all of the mobs glitch out, they run to the top of the little staircase here, and then you jump off and sort of walk around in circles, eventually get them all stacked on top of each other, and then you can just kill all of them. This is a great way to farm gold at level 60, but it's also something that level 45 to 50 mages have been doing solo for incredibly fast levels. The technique differs pretty significantly if you're a level 60 mage or if you're a level mid 40 mage. You have to play it entirely differently, and of course the speed that you're going at changes significantly as well, but this is one of the best mage AoE farming spots for leveling and gold making in general, so it had to be on the list. Now the next one that I'm also going to cover really quick so we can get to the spicy ones is obviously the Lasher Farming. And if you guys check out Gracious on his channel, he's actually extended the Lasher Farm run to go a bit deeper within Dire Maul East and kill some of the little demon mob camps to add a little bit extra. Now if you can get this down to a science just like Gracious does in his videos, you can pull multiple Lasher groups together while avoiding all of the pats and do maybe 3 to 4 packs at once. And this is why he kills those extra demon packs later on, because he's doing the Lasher Farm so insanely quickly that he would be instance locked out from 5 Lasher runs really quickly. But obviously everyone knows this is probably one of the best gold making schemes for any mage in general. Now this next one is lesser known, and this is again from our boy Gracious, who has some of the best mage gold making videos that I've seen on YouTube so far. He's created a really interesting series aptly named Mage vs World. This was an homage to Hunter vs World, which is the legendary video series created by Dysphoria, where he soloed a ton of dungeons as a hunter back in the day and created the modern DM North tribute run that we all know of so well. But Gracious has not disrespected the Hunter vs World series by naming his after it. In fact, he's right at that level. He's got some really nice gold farms, some really nice mage solo runs. And the most interesting one that I've seen so far is him doing Strat Undead, or at least Strathholm village farming. He's managed to pull a ton of zombies within the entrance of Strathholm all at once and been able to kill them all. He's managed to do massive pulls in the Strathholm entrance, clearing out hordes of zombies by his little own gnome self. Within his video specifically, he's actually had to use a good amount of consumables, limited invulnerability. I've seen him use some oil of immolations and stuff like that. He also uses the frost reflector trinket from engineering to reflect the frost bolts from those undead mage casters at the back. So there's definitely a ton of preparation attached to doing this farm. But if you think about the amount of gold that you're most likely going to be making from soloing a level 60 dungeon by yourself, especially doing massive packs like this, then it's definitely going to balance out, and it's probably worth investing in the consumables just to be able to do this. Although at the same time, keep in mind that this probably takes intense focus to do it properly without dying, and if you die once, it kind of kills the efficiency. So it might not be the greatest farm out there in terms of efficient gold farming, but it's definitely an awesome one, and it has to be on this list. And I think it's pretty cool just to know that you can solo massive hordes of zombies in Strathholm by yourself. A lot of people would probably think that's not possible. Now, this next one is something that people did heavily on private servers, but it took a while to catch on within Classic. And honestly, I still kind of don't really feel like mages are really doing this at all, but it's definitely a good farm. Now, everyone knows prison farming when it comes to spell cleave, when you're leveling up, having a bunch of level 50 mages and going into the prison in BRD without a tank and just doing massive spell cleave pulls. But at level 60, you have another alternative, and that's obviously gold farming within the prison. There's no casters or ranged mobs within this entire zone. Obviously in BRD there are, but within the entrance, within the prison area, there's none. This means if you're adept at kiting and mob control, that you can do massive AoE pack pulls. BRD provides a ton of gold. Just doing these farms in a 5-man group, you make not terrible gold per hour. Obviously nothing close to what you can do in a solo run, but that's pretty much the point. These mobs drop cloth, they drop greens, gray weapons, and they also are high enough level to drop some pretty interesting epics. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can get Edgemaster's gauntlets here. So the potential for some really awesome epics that could sell for a ton of gold on the auction house are definitely available. So BRD prison solo farming is definitely a thing, and there's a good amount of videos out there. The one you're seeing on the screen, thanks to this YouTuber, he allowed me to use this footage. He had a pretty good video about it, and obviously you can see that he's doing a pretty healthy sized pull. I wouldn't be surprised if you could do even bigger than this, especially if you get much better gear. So I'd say this is probably a decent entry level gold farming route, maybe similar to Zulfrak zombie farming. If you just want a change of pace, a change of scenery, you might want to head to BRD. Alright, so I've kept the best for last, and this is that specific video that I mentioned earlier, where this one guy who actually used to be an OSRS YouTuber and lately has been switching over to make some classic WoW videos, he figured out one of the most insane solo mage farming runs that I've ever seen. And it's definitely something completely brand new that no one ever knew about. This is the beauty about classic WoW, is that a lot of the stuff that we knew on private servers didn't necessarily translate because the entire world was scripted differently. But now that we have classic, we have these people that are figuring out some really interesting stuff that no one ever knew about. And we know that it's official to original vanilla and the scripting within that game, considering classic is the same thing. If you guys are looking on the screen right now, I have a sped up version of this man, this absolute nutcase, this freaking psychopath, pulling the entirety of the purple side in Maradon. He pulls pretty much the entire dungeon, runs through the whole thing, constantly pinging all of these little mob packs, getting them all together, kiting through, casting rank 1 blizzards to group them all up, and eventually at the end, the grand climax, killing maybe like what, 100 mobs, maybe 120, I don't know. You guys tell me. Someone can maybe go and count them. Maybe like 80 to 100 mobs, probably something like that, all at once. This is really, really crazy. He uses a really cool technique where he's jumping on this little ledge and then going back and keeping the mobs in a limbo. And one of the coolest parts about this is that actually, the moment I saw him doing this, it gave me a flashback moment to a video that I saw from a really long time ago. A 240p or like 480p video from back in original vanilla of a hunter soloing the last boss, the Satyr boss in purple side, where he was jumping on this tree root and then jumping back on the ledge and going back and forth and keeping the enemy mobs in a limbo while killing the boss. I had a feeling someone would figure something out in purple side using that vine, but interestingly enough, he found actually a brand new one within a different part of the dungeon that's even better and allowed him to do something that I thought not possible at all. So this is really cool, and if you guys are playing a mage out there and you want to challenge yourself, this is probably one of the more challenging mage AoE grind spots. So go ahead, get out there and try to perfect it. So there you have it. That's the video. That purple side Maradon run is one of the craziest things that I've seen in a really long time. And a shout out to that guy for figuring it out. That and the fact that the world is open now is really the inspiration for this video, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Mage AoE farming is probably one of the coolest parts of classic WoW, and I'm really curious to see some even greater farms figured out by the community and brought to light. So if you guys enjoyed the video and want to see more like it, of course leave a like, comment, subscribe, you know the drill, soldiers. Hit the notification bell to be notified every single time I post a new video straight out of the render oven. And with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.